I like to play smaller indie titles from time to time. This way you can find some absolute gems hidden in the pile of all games released through recent years. Some recent examples could be Hades, Hollow Knight, indies that got a massive mainstream success. But what about other titles? Games that still haven't got their chance for massive recognition. Astray launched in 2019. It has been developed by Astray Incorporated and then published by Ryak International Limited. I don't remember exactly how or when Astray appeared on my radar, but I'm glad it did. Also, how fitting that I can't remember the origins of me getting to know about the game that's main story is about restoring memories. So without too much talking, this is my late review of Astray. This review is based on 12 hours spent in-game, completing the game on disaster difficulty and playing some stages on easier settings in order to check out the differences, unlocking both endings, completing 100% in-game achievements. I think I'm going to start this review by talking about gameplay. As you can see, we play as this little blob or slime called Mo. The game is a 2D platformer, maybe even more of a puzzle platformer, since the main focus is placed on solving puzzles and navigating through various obstacles. Is there any fighting or combat? Well, Astray has its own share of enemies, even boss battles, but you don't fight them in a conventional manner. Our blob will have to focus on jumping and dashing in order to win encounters. Players can also rip enemy heads off. And I'm going to place a side note here. When I first saw Astray, I thought it's gonna be a game about this cute little fella, something that kids can enjoy. Wrong. Whether you will decide to rip enemy heads off or avoid them, there are still a lot of brutal, gory scenes in the game, so this is more of a mature product. Okay, a general overview of the game done. Let's dive into mechanics. First, movement and players' options. Astray is a very simple game in terms of options given to player, but it's the spin it takes later and how it utilizes those options that makes the game stand out. So, Mo can move right and left on regular terrain. It can jump, but the mechanic of jumping is different from most games. You will have to use one of the controller's thumbsticks to define the direction and power at which Mo will launch from the ground. If you use a mouse and keyboard, you will do the same by using your mouse and holding a button. When you will select the direction and establish a length of a jump, our slime will launch into the air. Until player won't unlock double jump feature, once in air you cannot control Mo. So after a jump, you will not be able to correct the trajectory. Our little blob can also stick into surfaces, walls, ceilings. Once it lands into anything it can stick to, ability to jump again is unlocked. Those are the options players start with. Then a double jump feature will be unlocked, an ability to stick into enemy heads, and finally a dash ability, which is just a stronger jump that can rip opponents' heads off, destroy armor or push objects. The first playthrough should take around 7 hours to complete. We have this pool of really basic and simple movement options. In order to avoid tedium and boredom, developers give us a progressively harder and more expanded environmental puzzles. There are race sections where you have to run from some danger. In some rooms there are cloning devices that are able to create Mo's double. You can switch between both blobs in order to solve the problem. Later, players will find a weird flower that is going to give Mo ability to fly for a short time. And of course there are simpler puzzles, navigating through corridors spiked with traps, getting through rooms full of enemies. Sometimes players are going to need to stick to other creatures' heads in order to make a longer jump or to take control of their body for a while and travel to some hard to access place. In later parts of the game, all the puzzles I told you about are going to be combined with even more obstacles, windpipes, hot surfaces or even lasers. It helped the game to remain fresh in terms of player experience. Also, there are definitely some rooms that made me think hard for a while before I figured out what I had to do. Mo Astray offers 4 difficulty options, with the hardest one, Disaster difficulty, being specified as a pinnacle of challenge in game. Disaster mode adds many more spikes, lasers and other obstacles on your way that won't be there on easier difficulties. Also, enemy projectiles are moving faster, traps activate quicker. Even though there are 4 difficulty options that you can change at any given time, I would consider this game as a challenging one. Why? Because the design of a jump and dash requires you to be quite efficient and precise with your movement, while the challenges sometimes don't leave a lot of time for making a decision. Example, those race running parts of the game. They are actually comparable to gauntlet runs from Ori and the Will of the Wisps or Ginso Tree from Ori and the Blind Forest. Both are beautiful and great games, by the way. I remember when my wife played the first Ori. She loved the story and the game, but some sections, even on the easiest difficulty, were too much for her to handle. I had to complete those sections so she could progress and experience the whole story of the game. And I feel that players that lack skill, coordination or simply patience might not be able to complete Mo Astray. Talking about patience might be a nice segue into game's bosses. Arcprey's title offers some really well designed boss battles, and I love challenges based around tough enemies. So, how those fights work in here? First, you need to figure out a way to deal damage to the boss and when are your windows to deal damage. In some cases, it might be done by dashing at the opponent at the right moment. In other cases, it will be tricking enemy to deal damage to itself. Boss's attacks are well telegraphed, so after a while you should be able to recognize what is coming your way. As their health dwindles, your big adversaries will get more desperate, sometimes adding a new attack into their roster. Sometimes they will just get faster and more relentless. It helps to keep players at their toes through the fight. It's great. I wasn't impressed that much by the first boss encounter. The Errors is a fight where you pretty much force your enemy to kill itself. It's a puzzle fight that requires you to utilize everything you learned to that point, which is great, but I felt like something was missing in there. Second boss, the Trap, is ingenious. It's a moving square where you have to just survive. Stay alive long enough and try to kill small enemies before they kill you. I loved it. It's refreshing because it's different from what you could expect. The moment when I finally fell in love with the boss battle design is a third boss encounter, King of the Inhabitants. At first I thought, man, that's such a bad design, it's too fast, boss attacks are similar to each other, it's hard to read. And then there is this one-hit attack. But of course, I'm stubborn, so I tried and tried. After some attempts, I learned that the boss actually telegraphs its moves really well. I learned how abuse its moveset. Then I figured out how to abuse his one-hit attack and that after that attack it's time to strike. So right now, I think that this is such a perfect example of a boss design. Clear tells that are easy to recognize after some attempts, killing strike that's easy to avoid, obvious window to attack the enemy. The fight gets more hectic the less HP boss has. It's a good boss design 101. If you disagree, I'm ready to argue. That's pretty much the feeling I got in other boss fights from that moment till the end. A feeling of being overwhelmed when I first encountered them, then slowly learning the tells and windows of opportunity, and after that just mastering the fight in order to win. For an indie title, Mo Astray has one of the most solid boss encounters in terms of design. Although, keep in mind that very late in the game it starts to enter bullet hell type of gameplay. I mean, it's nothing like Enter the Gungeon, where there are hundreds of bullets, but you will have to dodge more and more. Another quick segue. The bullet hell part made me look into Steam tags for the game. There is one tag there that I can't agree with, Metroidvania. If you come into Mo Astray looking for that experience, you will not find it. I mean, you can come back to previous locations and you will carry your HP upgrades, but first of all, each zone is quite small and it's separated from other zones. So it's not like this one big world when you can travel as you wish. The other thing is you will not carry upgrades such as dash or double jump ability to previous locations that were not designed with those features in mind. So not a Metroidvania. Graphic and sound design in Mo Astray are solid. The game chooses an pixelated graphic style and offers a cohesive, grim atmosphere to go with it. You start deep in a dark lab, surrounded by these weird fungus zombies. Then you travel into the wildlands of inhabitants, only to end up in high-tech base full of mechs. Surroundings are diverse enough to keep players interested. When it comes to sound, it's, as I said before, solid, but there is one hiccup in here. This is a small project, so there is no voice acting. You have to read everything. It was not a problem for me. The writing is competent, but there are moments when we get some lines delivered in the middle of intense platforming sections. Don't expect player to read some dialogues or lore while they try to stay alive. This is just a bad timing for it. Music is superb. I fell in love with the main theme the moment I got into main menu. This calm, soothing music instantly got my attention and I thought to myself, wow, this might be some emotional ride. And I was right. Boss encounters, moments of danger, moments of dread, and the ending. Music in this game just makes everything feels complete and gives a weight to events unfolding on screen. Quick word about technical state of the game. I had 0 crashes, 0 problems. When you launch the game, developers insist to play the game on controller and with headphones on. I hate controllers, but I wanted to respect the recommendation, so I played with headphones on. Mouse and keyboard worked well for me. The only problem with controlling Mo is getting used to jump length and predicting where our slime is going to land. And there is this small help from developers. If you're going to launch with not enough force and land on spike near you, the game will show you a mark that you will die there. However, it does not work for long-range jumps. Settings are very limited. You can change gamma, resolution and choose between full screen or windowed mode. And that's pretty much it. But do we need more in this type of game? I don't think so. Let's sink our teeth in the story. You start the game with very little knowledge as to what's happening around you. There is this voice that guides you through your adventure, and after beating the first boss you will be given a task. Collect all the memories. There are 2 types of memories to collect in the game. The memories of monsters we meet. We can access them by latching to their heads and pressing E to read their minds. Then there are the blue slimy pools leading you to blue slimy blobs that once picked will unlock memories of a certain person. I don't want to spoil too much, but all 30 memory fragments belong to one specific person. There are also 2 more ways for player to get grasp at what's going on. After each chapter, you will unlock comic panels telling some short story about the past of the facility we started in and about its people. Also, some of the heads of dead people or monsters will glow. When Mo latches into them, they show a short cutscene about the last moments of life of that individual. Mo Astray's story is both great and terrible. I'll start with positives. It's great because it forces player to connect the dots. All those stories and memories, they are scattered across the game's world, and you will collect them out of order. I encourage every player to check their menu from time to time and access memory fragments from there, because in menu they are placed in a specific chronological order that will help you figure out the plot. And the actual story, after you figure it out, is really interesting, quite well written. But how many players will get to unveil that story? We live in times when gamers' attention span dramatically decreases. You give them short parts of the story that by themselves tell almost nothing. You show small snippets of events. Unfortunately, I fear that many players will not care enough to think about the whole picture, or they will even get discouraged to continue playing because of how weird the narration is. Which is a shame, because when I finally figure out what happened in the past and what was the purpose of my little fella, Mo, it hit me right in the feels. The game has two endings, and after my first playthrough I checked over the internet if I got the plot right. I am going to link a Steam discussion about the story of Mo, Astray, in the description under this video. Be careful with reading it though, because it spoils the plot. So, now I'm going to check recent Steam reviews for the game. As always, I'm doing it in order to learn about other people's opinions of the game and challenge my views. I am not by any means saying that my opinion is superior. As long as others can argument their point of view, I'm open for a discussion and disagreement. At the moment of making this video, Mo Astray sits at score of 93% positive reviews from more than 3000 total user reviews. It's a really good score. As most of the reviews are positive ones, it will be easier to examine those first. I am so happy to see that a lot of people cherish the way story is presented. It seems that the plot resonated well, not only with me but with a lot of players. Graphic design also gets a lot of praise. Puzzle sections and boss fights are a little bit more diverse between players, but for the most part they are praised. I am going to show you one very well articulated review. I agree with almost everything this user says. The review points out great music, complex puzzles, great atmosphere and boss battles. This person even points out how bad they felt for the monsters after accessing their memories. An opinion about the story is really well articulated in here, and I agree with the reviewer. The controls being clunky are mentioned as a negative in here. Well, I have to say that I somewhat agree, because there were multiple times, especially during the most heated moments of in-game jumping and dashing, when I died just because I haven't reacted fast enough or I miscalculated a jump length, and it is frustrating. But to be honest, I don't know how those situations could be avoided with keeping current jumping system. Maybe a 1 or 2 second slow-mo for jump aiming? I'm not sure. Let's see negatives. Since they are fewer in numbers, I'm going to analyze what exactly made people dislike the game. Here we have a person that just didn't get invested enough with the story in order to continue playing. And I am by no means berating this person. The game actually starts slow. The option to jump and stick to surfaces might give a feel of a gameplay that's not exciting enough. The game really gets going after you unlock double jump and dash. And this is also the perfect depiction of how some people might get turned off by the way the story is presented in game. It's just not for everyone. This review focuses on movement and it being sometimes clunky. As I said before, I can agree with it, but it's definitely manageable and I still feel like movement is fluid enough for a gripping experience. It just needs some patience and exercise. This one is interesting. The reviewer does not appreciate the difficulty spikes and the later parts of the game. This is definitely a topic for a different discussion, but I always like the difficulty spikes in games. You know, moments that force you to get better, to practice and overcome some serious challenge. But I know that it's me, and to most people it presents a sudden roadblock that might prevent them from completing the title. So I understand it, but I take it as a positive, not negative. This is the last review I want to talk about. It talks mainly about problems with difficulty spikes and problems with mouse and keyboard controls. I touched on both those complaints before. Controls can be frustrating, but I am going to challenge the claim of difficulty spikes, especially since this person is berating my man, King of Inhabitants, the boss I told you about before. I agree that one-hit kill mechanics can pose a great deal of problems in fights, especially since some games just use them in a very awful ways. But in Mo it's used correctly. The wind-up before this attack is pretty long. It's a great indicator of what's gonna happen, and it's schematic. After a series of 2 or 3 attack strings, the boss will jump into the ultimate move, so you can expect it. After enough tries, you will automatically learn how to abuse specific patterns. It really is about learning them and then executing it well. After I learned the pattern, I never died to that one-hit combo again. But I am a person that likes getting challenged in games. And as I said before, this is a challenging game, so there will be people that will not be able to complete it, which is a shame. I guess that they could really turn off that one-hit combo on the easiest difficulty. And final note, I am not berating anyone in here. I just simply want to say what are the things I agree with and what I disagree with. Okay, achievement hunting part. Getting 100% completion took me about 12 hours. You need to complete the whole game on hardest difficulty to get full completion. Most trophies will be awarded after progressing through mandatory in-game events and boss fights. There are separate achievements for unlocking each of the 2 endings. In order to get so-called good ending, you need to get all 30 memories before defeating the last boss. In order to get the other one, you need to miss at least 1 memory. So the fastest way to do this is to leave 1 memory fragment untouched. Finish the game, then replay the section where you missed a fragment, acquire it, and defeat the boss again. Really simple. Other than that, there are only 2 achievements that are notable. You will have to rip off heads of 50 monsters, which from what I have seen, most players do without specially trying during their time with the game. And the other notable trophy is to read minds of all creatures in game. This will require you to attach to every living and dead creature and read its mind. It even counts fodder enemies during boss fights, so keep that in mind. There's also a trophy for hidden areas and reading minds of infected creatures, but you will do it either way by completing reading all minds and getting all 30 mind fragments. Oh, and if you will lose track of what remains for the completion, you can access menu for collectibles and find what you miss. Mo Astray is a hidden gem. Its pixelated art style goes really well with great aesthetic design and dark atmosphere. There is no voiceover, so you will have to read dialogues, which should not be a problem in an indie title. Music completes this game on such deep emotional level. It's used to give a meaning to any event that occurs on screen. Gameplay is solid. The movement mechanics are quite simple. Yes, they can get clunky and sometimes frustrating from time to time. The game offers interesting spin on jumping and dashing. It might not be to everyone's taste. The puzzles and terrain obstacles are designed very well. The boss battles are top-notch, but make no mistake, this is a challenging game. Not everyone will be able to complete it. The story is great, but its delivery may push some people off from the game. It's not spoon-fed to players. You will have to figure parts of the plot on your own. I liked it. Once you figure out the past events from the story, you will appreciate the way it's constructed. And the ending hits hard in the feels. I recommend this game. I want to thank you all for watching this video. If you liked it, press the thumbs up, subscribe and maybe leave a comment. If you didn't like it, then press thumbs down and definitely leave a comment. I'm curious of your opinion. My question to you after this video is, what is your process of finding an interesting indie title to play? Do you only play those that already hit it big, or do you have some sort of research process? So that's all from me. Bye.